I'm James, and this is our champion, Tyler. And we would like to formally apologize for playing the game so incorrectly. We had some time to sit on it. We prayed. There's a new pope now. And then we also went on vacation. That was unrelated, but we went on vacation. So it's been a while.
Chicago.
Duh, prayers. But today we're going to talk about a game, fittingly, that we did in May. Halloween.
I'm just imagining the Pope
to
put
pray.
as like Michael Myers with him.
Oh, that'd be awful. I did see a TikTok that was because his two brothers keep doing interviews about how their brother's the Pope, and someone was like, "Can you imagine his brother be like, yeah, I just talked to God, and he says you need to stop doing interviews about me. Also, my name is Leo now. God says you have to call me Leo." But this board game. We're here for this board game. The first one, we'll skip what our usual first one is. We'll start with the rulebook. Our biggest point of contention. This was our most read rulebook per shoot. We had 4 different people read it.
Yeah, no. And the thing is what threw me off is we had Jigsaw and me both read a rulebook, and we go back and look, they were actually written differently. And one changed the way that Michael Myers played.
Mm-hmm.
One made it sound like any action cured his ailment. I can't remember what it was, the damage or
He went from staggered to ready.
And then if you look at the other rulebook, it says only a action listed on the card counted to getting rid of that. And that would have changed a whole lot of interactions.
Yeah, there were a lot of rules that differed from the book to the cards to like the Michael specific booklet, and like the rules that are just on the board. Out of 10, I would honestly give it a 5, because a lot of the mistakes were also error on our parts.
Yeah.
But there's also a lot that, like, again, doesn't track between the book and the other forms of knowing the rules to the game.
I'm going to give it a 6.
Okay.
Just because I do feel like a lot of the error was on our side, but I also feel like a lot of it was the organization of the rules itself.
Yeah, there was very specifically, because I checked and then I went on internet forums to double check. During the game, we had figured out the rule through 4 different people reading it that like you can't put yourself at an angle to see Michael until the very end of your turn. In the rules, it kind of says like, oh, after movement, but then doesn't specify because you can technically move twice. But then later in the rules, when it came through jumping through windows, it's like, oh, make sure you put yourself in the right position after you jump through a window because you don't want to then walk into Michael. And I was like, oh, that is also a category of movement. And then everyone's like, yeah, that's not clear. There's a lot of little things, but also in turn, if you're going to get one aspect of the game wrong, it can be the rulebook, because that's a very easy fix for next publications. Because I think the rest of the game will score pretty well. We really like
this was super fun.
Our next category is going to be box fit. This is a pretty basic box. It loses a point for me for, as always, the board not protecting the whole box.
Yeah.
But it came with it. Everything came with its own little bag. Everything was included.
I liked the bag part.
Yes. I love when they provide their own bags. I would give this an 8. This is...
I will also give this I'm going to give this an 8 because I'm going to go with the idea that the board isn't big enough. I'm going to jump on you. I'm going to piggyback on that conversational point.
It's my one pet peeve because I don't want to move the box around and hear it hitting the sides. Like, it should be the same size as the box, or maybe like a millimeter shorter so that you can scoop it.
Mm-hmm. I will give it credit though. I do dislike the boards that have no room to grab.
Yeah.
In the box, you have to bend in the box out, and you rip the box, and you're really upset about it.
Mm-hmm.
Cry about it at night.
I think this one's weird. This one's fine though, because no matter where which you put it, there is still an opening.
Yeah.
It also, I took my second point off because the Michael map and the board aren't the same shape. Make these the same shape, game designers. There's no need for that. Our next category, quite simply, is just the gameplay. We played 2 very different games during this game, so I want to hear your opinion as Michael.
So, I legitimately when the game started, I think I probably mentioned it when we were playing. Is I didn't know how to play Michael until about like over halfway into the game.
Yeah.
But the thing with it is I had so much fun with it. Because I'm like doing like I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing. You guys are like, oh my god, he's in the walls.
Yeah. I think as I was piecing it together for editing, I found out that you spent your first few rounds near me.
Yes.
But I didn't start freaking out that you were near me until you had already moved to Crow.
Oh yeah.
Like the first few rounds, I was like, well, sure, he wouldn't be near me. And then all of a sudden, I was like, but what if he is? And by that time, you're like, I'm gonna kill Crow for fun.
Well, Crow just felt like the easiest target because one of his search things was of course it's not of course it's
I
not
think he
on
could
one.
search twice.
Well, one was inside the house, one was in a shed.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I was like, oh, I can get him in between the house and the shed. And then he just was like, I'm not going to the shed.
No.
That sounds like a terrible idea.
That's where people get murdered, Tyler.
That was my whole plan.
Um,
I'm gonna give it a 10 though.
10?
I really, really liked this game.
As a survivor, I would agree. I don't know if I'm going to give it a 10 as well, but I would argue worst case it's a 9. This was a lot of fun. I think the survivors, like there's a lot of different ways you can play because there is that aspect that you could try to kill Michael.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like if we had all from the beginning been like, what if we just beat this guy up? It would have been an entirely different game.
It would have if someone would have had, or if you all had weapons right from the get-go.
Mm-hmm.
And if you all had, well, you had the gun with the ammo and a bunch of the melee weapons. And that, yeah, if I didn't have the Michael cards right away, I mean, I only have so much health.
Yeah. It was a very fun for us, even though the entire time we were just very Zach Baggins-esque startled.
What is that?
Yeah, I'd give it a 9. I might give it a 10 later on, but I think 9 is safe. This is a very fun game to play once you kind of learn the ins and outs of it. Which leads us into our next thing, which is short-term replayability. We just finished this game. Do you want to play another game?
Yeah, I'd play another game this easily. And that's out of 10 as well?
Out of 5.
Out of 5. I'm gonna give it a 5.
Okay, I'm also gonna give this a 5. If it hadn't been like 10 p.m. when we finished,
I feel like we could have done another round of this game and it would have probably still been this one.
Oh yeah. On the flip side of that, for another 5, we have long-term replayability. So down the road, would you want to play this again?
You know, this is actually, I just gave it a 5. I'm gonna give it a 4 here.
Okay.
Because I'm gonna remember that it took over an hour to play. And if someone goes, hey, who wants to play a game? My first thought is, yeah, let's go play that over hour game that takes to play.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a 3. And I'm only going to give it a 3 because I agree that this is a fun game, but it takes a long time. Because it boxed itself into the niche for me of a game that you can only play around Halloween. Like, we played it, like, if it was up to me, we would have never played this during the month of May.
No, that's fair.
The time to play it is written on the front of the box.
Something that comes in instruction of a time year to play it.
Yeah. Well, it's like 12 days. We can't play that Christmas game in like March.
Yeah, you could. It's not going to make as much sense.
But rounding out our categories, the most objective, how did you like it out of 10? It is your game. I should clarify. I don't own this game. Tyler bought this and he's like, I know what we're doing.
Well, you have to understand, me and my wife, Jordan, who, if you didn't know that we were married, we're at a Barnes and Nobles, and we saw the board game section. We walked over, and this was just like sitting up, like dead facing at me, and I'm like, I'm probably gonna buy that game. And then it was brought up to me that the rule of birthday month, if you happen to be the champion, you can pick the game that we're gonna play. And I was like, well, it's a little fun.
A tactical strike.
It certainly was.
Out of 10, how do you like it?
I'm gonna give it an 8.
An 8? Okay.
The only downfall of this game that I have not brought up to this point, and it really influences to how you like it, is you have to have minimum 4 people.
Yes.
And you can't really do it with any less, and then you can't really do it with any more.
Mm-hmm.
And it shoves you in that box of, how many friends do you have?
Yeah. There is technically, because I believe on the box it says 2 to 4. 2, absolutely ridiculous.
Well,
You 1v1ing Michael for an hour and a half. I've DC'd from worse games of Dead by Daylight.
well, the thing, I guess I think from the rules is you get to play multiple characters.
Yeah.
But again, that that feels like it takes away the fun factor. Then it's literally you playing.
You played hide and seek with a murderer. I'd also give this an 8. I really liked it. I don't know if I would go out of my way to buy it, partially because you have it, but like this is a game that I can see us like playing around Halloween, along with the Scream game I bought.
Yes, that's another really fun game. Now something I didn't talk about there. I don't know if it'll say it on the box. This was not cheap. Like board game wise, this was on like the higher end, like more expensive. Like, this was like $60+, almost 70. I had to think about that before buying this game, even how much I love Halloween and Michael Myers.
I would wonder if that was, and there's several factors that we won't get into, if that was because it's licensed, if it was because you bought it right around tariffs started popping up, because most board games are printed in China, or if it was just in general, the price of board games are becoming more expensive, which is bananas. Like, there's a lot of factors, but I would be remiss to see if that is the case amongst a bunch of other board games.
My guess would be the licensing.
Yeah.
That would be my biggest guess.
Well, speaking of this, we also noticed that this company, Trick or Treat Studios, because we were like, why is this so difficult to understand? We looked up. Trick or Treat Studios is not a board game company. Trick or Treat Studios is the, how do I put this respectfully? They are the people that make the costumes for horror movies. Like when you go to Spirit Halloween, Trick or Treat Studios makes the Michael outfits. They make the Scream outfits. So like, for a company that doesn't specialize in board games, it's pretty okay. It's pretty good.
But I will say, isn't this very similar to some other board games that have like a very similar premise?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember offhand. It is... I can't remember the name of it. I'm sure I'll put it in the comments, but there is another game.
Because they make Chucky, too. There's a Chucky, and it also looks like like another pulled version of another version of a game.
Yeah, that one I think we figured out looked like Dead of Winter. There is a game effectively where you're trying to escape somebody's house, but they've set booby traps and you need to either like escape or call the cops or kill them, but only they can see where they are on the board. I'll put the name of that game in the description, but like, even so, because I've watched people play that game, this is still in its own way a very unique take on that.
Yeah. No, this was fun. This was good. As much as it sort of sounded like I was talking bad about for the last couple minutes, I really enjoyed this.
Like I said, the worst part about it was the rulebook, which is an easy fix. You just have to go through and find all like the loopholes and things you didn't think about, and then write them in.
And I did like that they offered a make it harder on Michael, make it easier on the survivors, make it easier on Michael. Is because if you had an experienced Michael but not experienced survivors, you could give the survivors a little bit more of an edge.
You could give them more item cards to start. Like we all four of us, having never played this game, started with a respective card. Tyler could have started with no Michael cards. We could have started with no item cards. So like, there's a give and take to see like, you can keep your skill level relative in the game,
which is nice because not a lot of games can do that, and also suggest it.
Yeah. This game did score pretty well for us. As like I said, outside of the rules, I scored this game as a 38 out of 50, and you scored this a 41. Most notably losing points for the rulebook, and then a point or two off everywhere else.
That's fair.
This is a very solid game for not being put during the Halloween months. But I'm actually now excited to see if we can do something scarier than this for Halloween.
We can try. We can find some stuff.
We'll see. But in the meantime, I'm James. This is our champion, Tyler. Our longest reigning champion now at 2 months.
2 months in a row.
We will see you guys next month for a brand new game. See you later.
Bye.